must not do. And that is that you must not give up. See, because change is not going to happen. That state capture, which has become a national pastime, is not going to stop unless those of us or those of you who are not beneficiaries of that state capture decide that we must make it a priority to fight for the rights of 200 million Nigerians. So, therefore, what have I said? Our task is to seek and encourage the few leaders whose sense of patriotism goes beyond seeking their share of the spoils. Indeed, we must identify and celebrate the handful who continue to insist that their priority will remain seeking the greatest good for the greatest number of Nigerians, because they're a rare breed in social justice, and encourage them to deploy both modern and traditional tools to expand their network and spread across the nation. So, like I said before, doing nothing is not an option. So what has Pastor Itua done today? You can call this also his contribution. He could have done nothing, but doing nothing is not an option. And then I will finally close, Mr. Chairman, because we are now in a dangerous territory in Nigeria where if they get your schooling wrong, or the year, you better correct it before somebody says that you were there when they called the wrong date and you accepted it. I did not enter King's College in 1965, please. I entered in 1966. You might think that is not significant, but in an environment where people don't even know what year they entered which school or when they came out of the place, it becomes significant. Those who entered in 1965 were Bayo Ogunlesi. He's alive. I entered the year after him, 1966. 2 days after I entered King's College was when there was the first military coup. So I remember what year I entered, and all my classmates can vouch for that. And then, then I will now close by just making something, because on a lighter note, on the way in here, somebody insulted me by asking me, "Oh, I hear you were in King's College with Itua." Then he asked me, "Were you
in General Wachukwu's chronology of some of the mistakes that we have made as a nation. And when Mr. Peterside was also speaking to the subject, he kind of highlighted also some of those, there were those similarities. So I think the first order of business is, let me ask Professor, you've listened to both the chairman as well as our keynote speaker. And between the two of them, I think they've done significant justice to the subject matter of the mistakes that we have made as a nation in the last 64 years or even before independence. So maybe please share, first of all, your reaction to both statements and also your own perspectives, just in case there are certain mistakes that we have made that is still bedeviling us as a nation that we have not really articulated, talk less of looking for a solution. Thank you.
The chairman, it's a privilege sitting next to someone who was a minister when I was serving in Abuja, Suleja, 1987. I remember his name had been announced alongside General Kenriade and others as a youth corps. And today, sir, I told him in the room that it's such a privilege all our lives for a long time to come. With 923.8 square kilometers of landmass, over 68,000 hectares of arable land where we can crop. Did that land make any mistake? No, it's a beautiful creation of God, amalgamated together. But Nigerians have made mistakes of not realizing who we are. Great people situated in a very wonderful landmass that even foreigners want to come and occupy. And I think our greatest mistake is that we have not outlined our vision and our mission. To go and make sure that our generations to come do not suffer any harm. You want to think about a country that in the future will be technologically so sound we can be on. Did extremely well. I didn't know Ruben, I didn't know Pastor Itua from nowhere. But I'm here today because one day, some people you can't get to them. I was governor of Nehemiah. Somebody said, the topic you are trying to treat in leadership, this man will be interested. He will do it. And I called him. He picked, who are you? I said, Governor of Jeremiah Bukola Oyawe. He came, but he was talked 3 hours by the Redeem. And at a time he said, please, can I give this talk in my car with all humility? If we have him as a governor or as a president of Nigeria, this man will be there to listen to everybody. But the mistake we will normally make is we will evaluate him and we will decide that an Edo man. I lived successfully 21 years in the north. By some top Western countries. But do I not discriminate against the Gwari lady? Do you not discriminate against the Igbo girl? Am I not discriminating against the Igala man? So first, we are making mistakes of not existing together, of discrimination, of corruption, of inadequate cohesion, and unforgiveness, because we never forget. We would always remember an Igbo man hurt you 20 years ago. You're taking it back on an innocent Igbo boy who did not do anything wrong to you. You were betrayed by a Yoruba girl 25 years ago. A coup took place 1960. I was not born. Then you want me to pay for the sin of the man for killing an Hausa man that time, or an Igbo man or a Yoruba man. Why am I supposed to be paying for the sins of the things I was not even born when it happened? The mistake we make is that we've forgotten that the children that you stole their money, their education money, now you did not train very well today, their children will come and hurt, those children will come and hurt your son that you sent to Harvard, who is not going to be able to stay in Nigeria because of insecurity. You want to be like an American. Every day an American wake up with all the problem he has with Biden, he says, God bless America. But from Nigeria we hear, we are 200 million people, we hear 150 million curses on Nigeria by your pronunciation. This country is bad, this country is going well, blah, 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 blah. And in spirit, it is written. You want it to be like Australia or London, then you throw that next can of Coca-Cola in your hand into the water, and then you clog the waterways, and then somebody's house is flooded, and then you say the leaders. I'm sure they want me to round up, but I will say this one. Last week, I was in a market in Oye, and I priced some things. It came to 200 naira change was meant for me. I gave 30,000. Suddenly the person who took the money, who had agreed to my price, he did not give me my 200 naira change. Oh, I felt too big to quarrel. So I got into my car. He said he won't give me. On the way, after going 7 kilometers, I realized he had miscalculated. His money was short 2,000. The next town, he opened his mouth. He didn't give me my 200 naira. I returned this 2,000. How are you going to be better than the next person? Are you going to punish him for his mistakes? And you commit a greater mistakes? Will I feed my kids with the food that I bought that he has miscalculated and feel good? Do we fear God? Do we love the next person? These are our mistakes. Are we making way for the youth, entrepreneurship, and all that? This morning or this afternoon, sir, I think we are.
Lecture, what do we need to do, each and every one of us. Dr. Abati, before I invite you to speak, I know that Mr. Chairman General has been making some notes, and I know that when Mr. Peterside was giving his keynote, he mentioned something about the military, and I'm going to give you a right of reply at some point. So please note that point. He listed the military as one of the problems, so you will have your right of reply. But distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me invite Dr. Ruben Abati to speak to the subject matter and also to react to the submissions of the General and Mr. Peterside. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Peterside, Professor Yahweh, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, great pleasure to be here. Now, when I was coming for this event, or when I received the invitation, I decided to post the flyers that Pastor Itwa put out on my Instagram page. And one of the reactions I got, I found very instructive. The person said, and I quote, "All talk shops and nothing more. Don't you guys get tired of talking? We see elites of other society take action with the destiny of their countries. But here, now so talk. We have talked enough, organize and change things. I'm sure even unborn kids know the mistakes and problems of Nigeria, but let's keep talking." Well, I like the last part where the gentleman says, let's keep talking. And, we could not have chosen a better occasion for this. Pastor Itwa, when I met him many years back, was in the process of talking. He would write articles on the pages of newspapers. He would be on television. At a point, Pastor Itwa was publishing a newspaper. So since then, he has been committed to this business of trying to remake Nigeria, to build Nigeria. And I think that, what is important is what Socrates says: the unexamined life is not worth living. So we have to keep examining so that we can make progress. And the first thing I like about this event is the note of optimism that I got from General Nwachukwu's chairman's remark. He drew up all the questions, interrogated, raised the questions. I wrote down a nation of mistakes. But when he then said, okay, what we have to do is to seize the opportunity to define the path to the future and ensure that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. So what do you expect? General Nwachukwu is a be more interested in the progress of Nigeria. And when Mr. Peterside also gave his speech, he ended up saying, we must not give up. In other words, also on an optimistic note, that progress is possible, that Nigeria can be a better place, it can be more inclusive, as General Nwachukwu said, and that to do otherwise is to betray our citizenship. I took that from General Nwachukwu's presentation. But where are the citizens? I asked the question. Are we citizens? How many of us can genuinely say that we believe in the idea of Nigeria? And this is the question that was posed many years back by Professor Wole Soyinka, that when is a nation? Can you really refer to Nigeria as a nation? Because we have a flag, because we have a national anthem that we all sing. When you look at other nations that are making progress, not the kind of thing we have here, there's a sense of identity. That same word I got from the presentation by General Nwachukwu. Okay, what makes us a Nigerian? I think we have not yet resolved that matter. I think the attitude of most people is that, we just belong to different nations. And which takes me immediately to the point made by Mr. Peterside when he said, in drawing up the 9 mistakes that he says he has identified, that he will not start from the amalgamation, that he will start from 1966. Now, there are some people who are in fact convinced that the mistake of 1914 is what we have to correct. That the biggest mistake of all the mistakes, which Mr. Peterside said, well, he doesn't want to talk about that, is, according to some people, the mistake of 1914. And that is why they are saying, for this country to move forward, we have to renegotiate the basis of our union. As recently as the other week, when the Patriots had a program in honor of Professor Ben Nwabose, who wrote extensively, on constitutionalism and democracy and all the issues. The man who drew up the constitution of Kenya and Malawi and all of that. Now, blessed memory. The question was, look, can we come together through entrepreneurship, through innovation and investment, we want Nigeria to dissolve. But to think that we will not discuss amalgamation, no. Now, what I'll do is to interrogate some of the points made by Mr. Peters. In drawing up the 9 mistakes, he talked about destruction of standards in the service by the military, where we blame the military for everything. We always say never again. That was the refrain when we were fighting for return to civilian rule. We said never again must we have military rule. But the question here is, those who criticize the military for everything, for destroying Nigeria, have you noticed that most of the projects done by the military under the first development plan, second development plan, third development plan, they are still the major projects in terms of infrastructure that Nigeria has today. Their civilian successors have not been able to do better than them. And yet, we tend to blame the military for everything. Okay, Mr. Peters referred to how the military destroyed the civil service. Okay, yes, but that came during the Murtala administration. It was still under the same military that we had those super palm sects. Alison Ayeda, Eyujuchie, that sect that tried to build the Nigerian civil service. But I get the point that Mr. Peters is making, that you need a very strong civil service. You need a opportunities. There are people who just want to collect bribe. If you don't give bribe, your file will not move, and nothing will move. And which was why I was happy when Mr. Peters talked about greed and fear. Now, what should be the size of anybody's greed? People are greedy in other parts of the world too. People have fear in other parts of the world too. Is that we don't have enough good people. So when he was talking about, we should to go early, otherwise we'll not find Sito. Because some people will have reached, they will have arrived for Easter Sunday service by 8 a.m. so that they will find seats. Of course, truly, when we got there, we were struggling to find seats. That's private morality. Soon it will be Ramadan. We'll see a lot of people, very religious. But how about public morality? That private morality, the fact that we have churches everywhere, we have places of religious worship everywhere. Why is it that it doesn't translate? Into the way we run our lives. So we're a country of hypocrites. And that is why I agree with people who say part of the solution is for us to change our attitude. Mr. Peters defined that by talking about state capture. And he said, well, state in terms of his experience. In fact, the day they were going to do the party primaries, he didn't even know the location. In fact, the people who came from Abuja, they had gone back to Abuja before somebody informed him that they finished the party primaries. Out of annoyance, Professor Tomi wrote a book titled Why Not? And in that book, he kept using the word like Mr. Peters said, state capture. And he wrote out of anger. And he referred to criminal hijack of the Nigerian state. How some people have hijacked the Nigerian state. And that's why I raise the question. When Mr. Peters talks about good people, where are we going to find them from? These same good people, are they the ones going to do the local policing, the state police, that he says is a good idea? Are they the same ones that are going to do revenue generation? That revenue to GDP should be subject number, but it's the same thing, the common good. Now, what is lacking here is how to identify these good people. I don't know whether they will come from outer space, but this is our country. We have to keep searching. Now, he talked about the common thread. For me, that common thread is the leadership deficit. But let me go quickly to his point about what we must do. He talked about keeping the youths interested in politics. Well, good idea, consistent with his argument that we should not give up. But where are these Nigerian youths? The ones that have joined Boko Haram, the ones that are into kidnapping, or the ones that are killing soldiers and policemen in a horror forest in Delta State and in Okwama community. So the argument is that Nigeria has a youth bulge, and that they constitute the population. And they say, oh, we have to involve the youths. But the youths also constitute a problem. So, I think to add to that point that Mr. Peters had made, education. I've not had a proper emphasis on education in the course of our reflections this morning. We need to do something about our education system. In 1955, when Awolowo introduced the free universal education, free education as it is called in the Western region, the success that he made was so much that by 1958, the Eastern region also held their own special conference on education. In 1959, the Northern Nigerian leaders, they came together and said, oh, what Awolowo is doing in the West, let us also do it. What is education all about? Competition. And if Nigeria needed education between in 1955-59, we need it more today. Many of our youths are distracted. They are into pools betting. They are busy on X or Twitter, just talking, things that they don't know. Now we need to capture. Now using capture in a positive sense, that youth population via education in a world that has become competitive. And that should be a major priority, a national emergency on education, so that we can have children, youths, that can compete in the future. Because we are in the age of innovation, we are in the age of competition, skills are being acquired. This is the age of artificial intelligence. Our own youths are still roaming about playing games and going to pools betting sites or gaming centers, where if you go there, sometimes some of them sleep there overnight.